The IEBC talks have been ongoing all week between the IEBC commissioners and the government, led by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich and his permanent secretary Kamau Thuge. They finally struck a deal, but the commissioners will know of their send-off package on Monday, which is tomorrow, setting the stage for the next poll chiefs to come in with about 10 months into the general election in 2017. This is a discussion, gentlemen, that we've been having when we were taking a look at the political pages. I've had your views, but let's just start off with Brian Mutie, who's joining us from our other studio. Brian, thank you very much for joining us, first of all, and a very good morning to you.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Brian.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much for coming in. And we were having a chit-chat here with Dismas and Ishmael on the IEBC exit talks. Both of them agree that it was very unnecessary, that the commissioners might have been handled with baby gloves as they seek immunity. Dismas is proposing that there should be a room for them to be investigated to see who was guilty and who was not guilty, so as not to set a precedence where public officers will be doing wrong to the public and knowing that at the end of the day, there wouldn't be any consequences. What are your views, Brian?
I think in terms of precedents, I do agree with Dismas that at least it's a bad precedent that's being set. But again, we need to appreciate the fact that this was a specially arranged sort of setup, in the sense that it was not just like another, issue, but especially in the sense that we are operating within a political context. And such, issues and such kind of an atmosphere calls for, that kind of consensus in terms of the way forward. We have several stakeholders, and when you talk about elections or elections management, we have various stakeholders who normally have a lot of interest in this nature of exercise, this issue of politics, this issue of election, and therefore, this being a specially arranged this being a special arrangement, it's just a matter of calling for tolerance, which actually is one of the democratic principles, that democracy calls for tolerance and consensus as well. When I'm talking about tolerance and consensus, I'm talking of a situation where all the interested parties have to come to terms with the kind of laid, agreements that perhaps might sprout out of an agreement. And in this case, of course, we are talking about the two protagonists being the Quad coalition and the Jubilee coalition as the key pillars here, as the main drivers of this, agenda. So to me, perhaps it looks like a bad precedence, but at the same time, democracy calls for tolerance. And that's why the space for negotiation, the space for mediation, and the space for, letting it go of all that kind of hardline stance that you are having for the interest of this country. Because at the end of the day, we have to see our country moving forward to the next level. At the end of the day, this country has to, go through the electoral process where we need to, elect men and women of ability to steer their sectors to the next level in terms of development, whether in legislation, whether whichever sphere of election, the IEBC has to be there. So it's a matter of, giving them ample time, giving them their space, because at least we can see there's something happening in terms of negotiation. And as we are talking, we are sure at least there was a breakthrough in terms of those negotiations. So it's a matter of patience. It's a matter of waiting and see what comes on Monday in terms of that package you've actually talked about. Whether it's huge, we have accepted that a negotiation process has to be there, and therefore the exchequer has to be ready to give out the check, whether we like it or not.
Brian, what of the IEBC commissioners negotiating for protection against being investigated, being protected from political witch hunt and whatnot? What do you think?
Yes, to me, I think there is need for that, because they did not go through the due process, which actually rule of law is all about. And this being a specially arranged sort of setup, as I said before, I think to me they should be excused from that sort of pathway, because as you can see, their exit is a special exit. It's not just like another retirement sort of exit other public servants do go through. This being a specially arranged sort of setup, what they are agitating for in terms of being let the hook, in terms of investigations, it will balance with what they have lost in terms of serving this nation for the period that they would have served. Remember, they had some couple of months in terms of their contract, and by not being let to continue serving the mwananchi in their capacities and being given this kind of send-off package is a way of cooling off the tension within the political arena. Because if we continue politicking within the issues of elections in this country, I think we might find ourselves in a worse situation than we anticipate. Because we are willing as a nation, we are ready to be treated to a scenario where at least the electoral process is done in a transparent way as possible for this country to stand by its fate.